The actions taken prior to the fatal shooting and assassination attempt in Butler, Pennsylvania, coming under intense scrutiny this hour. According to exclusive NBC News reporting, that rooftop where the gunman shot at former President Trump was identified as a security vulnerability before the rally. This according to multiple sources. Joining me now is Bobby McDonald. Bobby is a retired supervisory special agent with the U.S. Secret Service. Also with us, Rob D'Amico, founder of Sierra One Consulting. He's a former FBI supervisor and a member of the FBI hostage rescue team. And I welcome you both, gentlemen. Thank you for being here, especially at this hour. Bobby, what more can you tell us about the Secret Service's breach and how they allowed a shooter to get on a roof that was previously identified as a vulnerability?
Yeah, good morning, Alex. Nice to be with you, and good morning to my colleague there. Yeah, you're absolutely right. What is happening here? What did happen? Why did it happen? We have a lot of questions that are going on. We know that the Secret Service conducts protective advances before all of these events. An outdoor event is very difficult to secure. We're obviously in the home stretch now of our campaign season, and both of the candidates are going to be doing a lot of these type events, which draw a lot of people. This vulnerability was identified and was not mitigated here. We've got some serious questions to be answered. And it's just a lot of things here that just aren't adding up right now, especially with the closeness of that building to where the dais or the stage was with this event. It's got some serious concerns that are going to have to be answered.
Yeah, for sure. So your position as a former supervisory agent, what does that mean? I mean, we know that the Secret Service works in partnership with other divisions, other units on the scene that aren't Secret Service. You can have local police, you can have FBI, whatever it is. Would a supervisory agent be somebody who would oversee sort of the coordination of that and then see something like, would they say, okay, that rooftop, that's your area, local police? Would they do that?
Yeah, in a nutshell, as a supervisory agent on a protective detail, you will come in the day before the event and walk through the venue with all of the site agents, if you will, and actually look at all of those vulnerabilities and say, hey, what's with that building over there? What do we have to mitigate any of the concerns that are there? So there are layers of work that is done to set up the security plan. There are then layers of supervision that come in and bless off on the plan, if you will, to make sure all of those vulnerabilities are covered. So again, somebody should have been asking some questions on the front end here, and now, unfortunately, we've got to ask some very serious questions on the back end.
Absolutely. And Rob, that includes President Biden, because he's asked for a review of this assassination attempt. So do we know who will take the lead on that?
I don't. I think it's going to be outside any of his cabinet positions, be it Department of Justice. Like, FBI is doing the investigation on the shooting, and I think you want to keep it even separate from them. Obviously, Secret Service is the one involved. So I think it's going to probably be an independent. He should bring in some experts that don't have any affiliation with him or with the agencies involved to really take a look at it. Probably some retired Secret Service guys who've been there before, but some outside folks, so that it really has transparency, that he's really trying to figure out what in fact went wrong, and they don't have any holding to any of the agencies or any of the people involved.
Hey, Rob, I was told that you were trained as a sniper. Is that true? You had some sniper training during your time at the FBI? And if so, talk about how quickly the Secret Service did neutralize is the word they use, the gunman, Thomas Crooks. I mean, you heard a few quick pops, and given the style of rifle that we presume it may be, that's quick, but he was taken out pretty quickly as well.
I think if you look at some of the video, and it's hard to believe, what exactly is accurate in people's timing, because they always remember things differently. But I think there was one person who was talking about that they were pointing him out. They were pointing this guy in the back of the building out, and he was actually in defilade, I think, to the counter sniper teams behind that you're showing now, which means that the slope of the roof that he was crawling up was unseen to them until that shooter got to the peak. And I think that counter sniper there was actually trying to desperately look for him. But when you're looking through a scope, your field of vision is very narrow. I think when the first couple pops went off, he pulled his head up to get a wider field of view. And then I think another sniper, took him out. So I think they were looking for him because some of that information was getting out that there's a possible person on the roof with a gun. They're desperately looking for him. And then I think as soon as he shot, they identified, okay, that's him. He probably came into view, and then one of those snipers was ready and took him out.
Yeah. So, Bobby, we're up to the point where the former president has had that bullet graze his ear and he's collapsed on the ground. Talk about what you watched Secret Service do, how they sprung into action. Give him a grade. Was it an A grade? Did they do it exactly by the book?
Watching those agents respond to the president on the stage, I did 21 years in the service and never had to respond to a gunshot. So you immediately get into their shoes and hope that you would have reacted the same way. They reacted the way we train every day. They enveloped around the former president, put up a body bunker around him, were able to verbalize good communication with each other. You can hear that on the audio of the tape. They then decided to pause for a moment, wait till the all clear was given that the shooter was neutralized. And then they began to move him to the armored vehicles. In hindsight and in 2020 vision, I would have liked to seen him maybe moved off the stage a little bit quicker. But again, these type of things and incidents bring a little bit of chaos, and nothing ever goes exactly how we practice. Nothing ever goes exactly where our muscle memory is. And there's no playbook for this. So again, I think the agents did an outstanding job in and around the dais, absent maybe a few tweaks here and there. So I'm a little bit loath to give them an actual letter grade, but I think they did a pretty darn good job.
But let me ask you quickly, as we looked at that video, it looked as if the former president, wasn't too eager to get off that stage. I mean, you saw he was still gesturing and trying to message. We're seeing it right there to the crowd, 3 times, fist pumping, saying fight, fight, fight. I mean, he didn't look like he was ready to rush off. So that would be in their defense when you're saying you would have liked to see them go a little more quickly. How hard is it when you have someone that you're trying to protect who might have another plan, let's say?
Yeah, again, these things are not easy. You hope that your relationship with the president or the details relationship with the president, which I understand is quite good, could get a little bit of communication going saying, hey, sir, we've got to move and we need to move now. So, he was up. He was obviously not injured, again, all that seriously, I guess, thankfully, because he was able to give the fist pump. And again, I think the agents, despite his resistance maybe to run off the stage, did do a good job of moving him to those cars.
Let's look ahead. All eyes, Rob, on Milwaukee this week for the Republican convention. Secret Service held a briefing there today to address the kind of security they'll have. What can you tell us about how they're preparing in the wake of this assassination attempt?
Well, I think it's dual. I think there was some, I don't know if I want to say arrogance, but they said they weren't going to change anything. I think that is maybe a bit too strong. Like, you really have to look at what you're doing, but it also is indoors. So there's a big difference in in a venue where you can screen everyone coming in. Not that you can't get in anyhow, but you're screening everyone. It's where the shooter was in this point didn't come through a screening area. So it was outside the searchable area. So I think now that you're going indoors, there's going to be layers. And I think the biggest thing is everyone there is going to be more alert. And I don't want to say that they weren't alert at this, but complacency of how many events. And the last time we had a shooting on a president was Ronald Reagan. So again, as much as you train, when every event goes well and nothing happens, you just get into a point where you're just not as I don't want to say alert, but it's one of those things like now everyone's like, it can happen. It can happen on my watch. They're looking at it and say, I don't want to be this person that does this or lets this person in that doesn't engage or doesn't question someone. So I think just everybody being more alert that this is, in fact, a reality of life and it can happen on my watch, I think is going to change a bunch.
Yeah. Bobby, Rob's not the first one to express, maybe call it a dismay or at least questioning that the Secret Service has not said we're going to ramp up our security. Do you think, to his point, that it is because it's indoors that they feel more confident because they know they cannot allow something else to happen so soon after what happened in Butler?
Well, I agree with Rob's comments. They're spot on. He's absolutely right with the complacency issue and things that move in and around that. I think the only slight difference with this event up in Milwaukee and the subsequent event in Chicago is it falls under the National Special Security Event status. So agents have been working with FBI agents and other state and federal local partners for the better part of a year putting this together. I'm not so sure that it's not going to change a little bit. The service may not be verbalizing a lot of its changes, but Rob's absolutely right. This is going to allow the service and its partners, for lack of a better term, to just tighten up a little bit, to remind ourselves, as he said, that we got to get out of this complacency, and this isn't just another day with a protectee. We have to remember why we do what we do every day and why we have to have 100% no-fail rate on our mission.
Yeah. On that note of tightening up, Rob, what's your view on the call from several lawmakers saying the security for all presidential candidates should be increased, and that includes for RFK Jr.?
I think so, but again, you have to look at it with resources.
Right.
It's just, this election is very contentious, and I think everybody getting to a point where they're putting their candidate, if the other one gets elected, as the end of democracy or such. When you start talking like that, it starts getting into people's head. Like if I can't affect this, the United States is gone as you know it. And that causes people to do things that are more drastic, like we're seeing. And I also think this shooter had more of a mass shooter or school shooter mentality in things. He's young, he's 20 years old. He also, put booby traps supposedly in his car and his residence, which we see in a lot of mass shooters because they don't think they're going to come out of that situation, but they know the police are later going to go and search their locations, and they're trying to do even more damage or more
mayhem, damage.
Yeah, more mayhem to it because they know it. So I think you're seeing some similarities in that.
It is an extraordinary time that our security forces are facing right now. But Rob D'Amico and Bobby McDonald, guys, thank you so much for joining me, particularly at this early hour. I appreciate you.